Hello. I've just been receiving one of the followers has asked me to speak about foreignization and domestication, or domestication and foreignizing. And these two strategies or methods, if you like, are strategies. In other words, they are more to do with the whole text, how you approach the whole text in your translation, rather than to look at specific treatment or localized treatment of a certain word or a certain term that you're not sure about how to translate. So let's look at what is domestication, what is foreignizing, according to Venuti. Venuti has published recently a book, 2021, I think, which is quite interesting to read, for you to read. And also, if we are looking back to 1995, when it was first talked about in the 90s, mid-90s. This concept, this is what one of the followers, his name is Ruda Sheikh Saleh, who has just sent me a request to talk about this particular concept. Now, what Venuti has done is that he has followed a previous scholar called the German Schleimacher in 1813, who has said, what I can't remember now the exact quotation of Schleimacher, but his idea is that you have, as a translator, you have two sides you are communicating with, which is the author on one side and the reader on the other. So when you are communicating between these two, you either, according to Schleimacher, you either bring the author to the reader, which means that you're bringing the author to the reader, which means that you are making all the ideas domesticated. That is, you're making the ideas closer to the reader as much as possible so the reader understands well what's being said. Schleimacher, in that lecture in 1813, has said that you as a translator is bringing the author to the reader. In other words, you're making it closer to the reader as much as possible so the reader understands the text as close to the reader as possible. You are in your approach. So you're domesticating. You're making it more closer to the target culture, target readership, when you are translating domestication. But when you are doing the other way around, which means that you are taking the reader to the author, as Schleimacher is saying, then you are making it as foreign as possible, as foreign as it is in that source text. You translate it in the target text and it stays foreign or exotic to the reader, and you don't need to. You are not making it closer to the reader. You're making it closer to the author. So, in other words, you are more closer to the author than you are closer to the reader when you are translating. So, we don't really much care about whether the author understands it well or not, these foreign concepts. That's called foreignizing. So, either you take the reader to the author, which means you are foreignizing as much as possible, you keep it exotic as much as possible as it is in the source text, or you are domesticating it by bringing the author to the reader. That is Schleimacher's view. And Schleimacher prefers foreignizing. In other words, you keep everything that's foreign as as it is, keep it as foreign as it is. So you don't bring it as close as possible to the reader. Venuti agrees with that and says, yes, you have to keep it as foreign as possible. Now, of course, this dichotomy between foreignizing and domestication. Sometimes it might be a little bit fuzzy and vague, because sometimes you might have to explain some things to the reader about the foreignness of the text. So you are in a way making it closer to the reader. So in a way, sometimes you might shift from one to the other, but the idea is not to mix the two together when you are translating. You either keep to domestication, i.e. closer to the, as much as possible to the reader, bringing the author to the reader, or you foreignize it, bringing the reader to the author. In other words, you are keeping the text as foreign as possible. That's what's called foreignizing. And of course, Venuti is one of those who subscribe to foreignizing. So he's in favor of foreignizing. And that is something very important to be aware of and to be concerned about. Now, of course, these are strategies or methods. They're not in no way you will consider them to be procedures. They are actually strategies, or they are methods, whole method for the whole text from the beginning to the end. You keep it as foreignized as possible, or from the beginning to the end, you make it as domesticated as possible, so that the target culture or target readership will understand it as best as you can to explain it to them, so they understand it as best as they would understand. So comprehension and being caring about the readership. I hope that I've actually explained the difference between foreignizing and domestication, and I wish you that I bid you a very good night.